That's the word soul we're looking at, is the suke. And I'm going to look up the translation of how you pronounce that. Suke. Okay. And I'm using here the interlinear. For whosoever will save his life shall lose that episode. In here it says the word life. Okay, in Matthew 26:45. Pardon me, Matthew 16:25. It's the word life, which is suke. Oh, suhe. That's how you pronounce it, suhe. Okay? And it's often translated simply as life. Matthew 2:20. I'm going to leave you homework again. Read Matthew 2:20, where it says life is the suhe. It means person in Acts 7:14. Person, suhe. My soul and your soul are idiomatic expression meaning I and you, which also my soul means suke, and I and you, Matthew 12:18, and also read 2 Corinthians 12:15, the margin. Let's go to question number 5. How are the steps of God used in creating a soul reverse unto death? Remember, dust plus breath equals a living soul. Now let's look at it backwards. Okay? The soul minus the breath equals dust. So we can be a soul right now, whether alive or dead. If the breath of God goes away back to Him, then guess what? We're a dead soul. We need the breath of God in order to be alive. Let's go ahead and read the verse. Psalms 104. So we can have proof of this. Psalms 104. We know that the Word of God is inspired of God. God inspired this holy man of God to speak the words from inspiration from God Himself. Psalms 104, verse 29. Let's see what it says here. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away their breath. This is the breath. The breath that we're able to speak. The breath that we're able to be alive. That's the breath that is talking about here. So notice what it says very clearly. Thou sendest forth thy breath, they are created. Thou renewest the face of the earth. That's what it says in verse 30. 29 again. Thou hidest thy face, they are troubled. Thou takest away thy breath, they die. They return to the dust. Does it say they return to heaven and go meet the Lord in there? No, it doesn't say that. Because the people go to heaven as soon as they go to die. What will be the purpose of the resurrection? To just to resurrect the righteous? I mean, the righteous dead? No. That's not what the Bible says. Please also watch the video that says the hope of the righteous. I think there's 3 parts on that, and it's excellent video. Using the scriptures for our doctrine. So we see very clearly, if we take, there's a soul, but if it doesn't have the breath, it's just dust. So if we're a living soul, we need to be, we're made out of dirt and the breath of God, and we become a living soul. In other words, if we die, our breath has to be gone in order for us to be a dead soul. Okay? So we can be a soul whether dead or alive. That's the point of the matter here. But we become a living soul with the breath of God, or we could be a dead soul without the breath of God. Let's go to Job 34. And that's previous, going backwards. Job chapter 34. And let's go ahead and go to verse 14 and 15. If he set his heart upon man, if he gather unto himself his spirit and his breath, 15, all flesh shall perish together. So if God said, I'm going to take away my spirit and my breath from all human beings, then what would happen? All flesh shall perish. Every human being alive on this earth will immediately die if God decided to take away his spirit and his breath. And they are being here used synonymously. Okay, so if he set his heart upon man, if he gathered to himself his spirit and his breath, all flesh shall perish together. And man should turn again unto the dust. Some people, when they die, they go and rest in the grave to see whatever their life was like, to see where do they resurrect, on the resurrection of the righteous or the resurrection of the wicked. But some people die and they are cremated, which is not a sin. Thus we are, thus should be returned. And they will also in the dust, whatever they are. Some people love to dump the dust in the sea. Who cares? God has enough power to go pick up those dust of the righteous human being. So let's not worry about that, okay? Let's worry that we live in this present world, wicked world, that we live righteously. That's our hope, and that's what we need to worry. To make our garments white, so we can be ready for Christ's second coming, whether dead or whether alive. Okay? So let's go to question number 5. I'm going to repeat it one more time, okay? The dust plus breath equals a soul, a living soul. Because if we don't have breath, it's a dead soul, right? So soul minus the breath equals dust. Let's go to question number 6. Let's go ahead and pay some attention here. It says, can a soul die? Okay, Ezekiel 18:20. Ezekiel 18:20. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel. We're turning to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 18, verse 20. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. So the soul that sinneth, it shall die. Can a soul die? The Bible is telling us very clearly, yes, it can die. It shall die. Question number 7, Genesis 3:19. Genesis 3, verse 19. It says, can a person die? When a person dies, what is left? Genesis 3:19, it says, in the sweat of thy face thou shalt eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. So when a person dies, what is left? The dust, because dust plus breath equals a soul. Soul minus a breath from the Almighty equals dust. Dust we are, dust we return when we die. Question number 8. Let's turn to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12:7. Ecclesiastes 12, verse 7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was. I want you guys to pay really close attention here. If none of the verses stay with you, let this verse stay with you, please. Ecclesiastes 12:7. Then shall the dust return unto the earth. Didn't we just been reading that? Dust, we are. Dust, we return to dust when we die. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was. And the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. That word spirit is this breath that the Almighty gave us when we are born out of our mother's womb. So thus we are, thus shall we return. And the breath or the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. Let's continue to question number 10. Oh, pardon me, question number 9. Where is this spirit located in a person? Where is the spirit located? I already told you guys, but let's go ahead and read the Bible verse. Job 27. We're Ecclesiastes, so we want to go backwards. Proverbs, backwards, Psalms, and then Job. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes. So we're going to the book of Job, chapter 27, verse 3. All the while my breath is in me. Do we have this breath? We have this breath that God gave us. All the while the breath is in me, and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils. Okay, so notice what it's saying there. Let's go ahead and read the question. Where is the spirit located in a person? Where does it say? It's located where? I'm going to read one more time. And this is another verse that I wanted to stay solid in your little brains and adults' brains. All the while my breath is in me, and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils. Where do we breathe? We can breathe with our nostrils and with our mouth. We breathe, right? And so that is where the Spirit or the breath is at. It is located in the nostrils. Let's go to question number 7. And let's turn to Genesis chapter 7. And I said the wrong question, didn't I? Question number 10, Genesis 7. Genesis chapter 7, verse 22. Genesis 7, verse 22. The question is, what is it that is found in a person's nostrils? So what is in those nostrils? Besides what we already know what's in there, right? And we know what we can do with those beautiful nostrils that God gave us. And beautiful noses that God gave us, each and every one of us. But let's find out what it says in Genesis chapter 7, verse 22. All in whose nostrils was the breath of life, and all that was in the dry land died. So the Bible here is uniting and telling us the exact same thing that says in Job 27:3. Genesis 7:22 says, all in whose nostrils was the breath of life. So the question is, what is found in a person's nostrils? The breath of life. Remember, once again, Genesis 2:7. Let's go there. This is perfectly uniting with Genesis 2:7. Genesis chapter 2:7. And the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And I'm pointing out here, but you guys know where the nostrils are. And I'm being very descriptive for the sake of little children, okay? I know you guys know if you're adults, but for the sake of those beautiful children, the nostrils, okay? And so God formed man out of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Isaiah chapter 2, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 2, verse 22. Sees ye from man whose breath is in his nostrils, and wherein is he to be accounted of? So, man has the breath in his nostrils, pretty much again. So let's go ahead and go to question number 10 on the comments. There's 2 paragraphs there. The Hebrew word for spirit and ghost in Job 3:11. I'm going to go there, Job 3:11. Isaiah, we're going to go backwards. It's before Psalms. Job chapter 3, verse 11. Why die I not from the womb? Why did I give up the ghost when I came out of my belly? Okay, let's look that up again. The Hebrew word for spirit and ghost, Job 3:11, ruach. And the Greek word pneuma mean breath, wind, or vital element. It is the spark of life which makes you able to live. It is the breath of the Almighty. Job 33:4. Another homework, you guys. Write that down. Job 33:4. When the Bible uses those words regarding man, not once does it say that the ruach or pneuma is something in man that retains consciousness after the person dies. In other words, the breath of the Almighty doesn't come with a conscience. It doesn't. It has to be the Spirit of God that is the presence of Jesus that comes into our lives. The breath of God doesn't have a conscience. It's just the living forces that God put in us in order to breathe and have our being, to be alive. Second paragraph underneath question 10. Angels are called spirits, and that is quoting from Psalms 104:4, because to human eyes they are as visible as breath, However, man does not possess the nature of angels. We're not. And for that, read Psalms 8:5. Nor does the Bible indicate that he assumes it as death. So let's read Psalms 8:5. I've been so used to the app that it's a little challenging for me to change it here and not take such a long time. I'm taking so long to turn here. So let's go to Psalms 8. And we want to look at verse 5. Notice what it says. For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Even I recommend you guys read for homework Hebrews chapter 1, the whole thing. And you will see that also Jesus did not take the form of angels. We did not take the form of angels. Jesus had to make himself the form of us human beings, that he could come and be our example. And there's so much more I can say about that chapter. Check out the video, which is called The Divinity of Christ. That will say a lot more about that chapter. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next question. Question 11, what leaves a man when he dies? Psalms 146. Psalms 146. Verse 4. This is another very solid Bible verse, okay? All of them are solid, but there's just some that make it so clear you're left without a doubt. So the question one more time, what leaves a man when he dies? Psalms 146:4, his breath goeth forth, he returneth to his earth, and that very day his thoughts perish. Does that mean that the breath had thoughts? No, it didn't. No, it doesn't. We have thoughts. The breath is only the vital forces of life that enter into us. That's how Adam became a living soul. Or instead of a dead soul. He was already a dead soul. He was created. Okay, you're a soul. Perfect. There's the body. But it didn't have the breath of life that makes us alive. Vital forces of life. Okay? So, what leaves a man when he dies? What happens? His breath goes forth to God. That's another verse that says that too. He returns to his earth. That's talking about us. We return to this earth. In that very day, his thoughts perish. So, the thoughts perish. We immediately die. And we're going to continue to look at those verses. Question number 12. Is a person's breath any different from that of the beast? Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Verse 19. For that which befalleth the sons of man befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them. As one dieth, so doeth the other. Yea, they have all one breath. So that a man hath no preeminence above a beast, for all is vanity. So we see that the beast and us, we have the same breath. God desires for the animals to be a living soul. God desires for us to be a living soul. And so we don't have no preeminence in regards to the breath. We have the same breath that God desires for us to be alive. But we know clearly, and this is something that you may say doesn't have nothing to do with the Bible study, but in a way it does, because we have been given a will to choose to serve God. Animals don't have that. Okay, they're just wild animals. They're not going to be saved. They're not going to be redeemed. They're not waiting resurrection. Only human beings have that right to be saved. Animals are just there to bless us, how cute they are, how beautiful. We learn the character of God with the animals. You know, Jesus is compared to a lion of the tribe of Judah. He is the Lamb of God that takes away the sins. And so he is the golden serpent that you look at it and everybody gets healed from the bites of the devil, the serpent.